All right, we're on.
Hi, welcome everybody. I'm Denise Comer. This is a workshop for English Composition 1, Achieving Expertise. It's a MOOC offered in partnership between Duke University and Coursera. I'm delighted to be here today with three course participants who are workshopping their Project 2 drafts. Could you introduce yourself and tell us where you're joining us from before we get started?
Yes, my name is Nadezhda, and I am joining from Birmingham, Alabama.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Nadezhda.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jahaira, and I'm joining from Dublin in Ireland.
Welcome, Yahida.
Hello, my name is Amina, and I'm joining from Illinois, USA.
Welcome, thank you. All right, so today we're going to workshop each person's draft. Before we get started, Nadia has graciously volunteered to go first, so we're going to get started in a second with her project. But I did want to get in the center of our minds the project overview and learning objectives so that we can offer feedback that's tailored to the learning objectives. So I'll just read these out loud. These are on the Project 2 assignment sheet posted on the course for those of you who are watching. These projects, we're focusing on learning how to summarize, question, analyze, and evaluate visual texts. And I just saw a typo on this document that I will need to change. I'm sorry. I had questions as plural. I'll fix that. Argue and support a position, use evidence, achieve cohesion, develop paragraph unity, revise, and edit. And as we turn to each person's paper, I'll also invite you to share with us especially what your main concerns are, what you'd especially like feedback on. So let's all turn to Nadia's paper. We've each read each other's projects already in advance, but we're going to refresh our minds with it here. So Nadia, what would you especially like feedback on for your draft?
I would be interested if I structured the paragraphs well, and if they are really following a logical order. I would also be interested for feedback if I have missed something, like if I did a good description of the picture and the image to support my argument, or maybe I missed some points which would be useful. And of course, does my argument come out well and strong? Is it supported well?
Okay, great. And I'm going to ask each of you to read a brief portion. We don't have time for you to read the whole project, but it is important to read your writing aloud. As writers, we tend to hear things when they're spoken that we might not encounter in the same way as we're reading silently. So it's good to get our words audible in that way. So Nadia, can you choose a paragraph and tell us where it's located so we can follow along with you?
Yeah, I will choose my third paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
And so it goes like that. The typical picture of heads of state shows them smiling and comfortably conversing. On the above picture, however, there are no smiles. The Copenhagen negotiations, as all climate change negotiations, were extremely taxing and entailed all-night sessions with lots of bickering among countries' representatives. The serious and concerned faces of the participants on the picture reveal the tension of negotiations. Their poses are strained and the looks thoughtful and concerned. Chancellor Merkel is intently staring at President Obama, leaning forward in his direction and lifting her hand as if to put more weight on her words. The other European leaders are listening calmly, seemingly letting her speak on their behalf. A united European opposition vis-à-vis the United States.
Okay, thank you. And so now I'm going to set my timer for a 1 minute moment of silence to collect our thoughts for feedback, and I'll let you know when the minute is up. Okay. And so go ahead and provide feedback. I'll contribute too, but I'll hang back for a little bit.
You want me to go first?
Amina or Yahaira.
Okay. So first, I would like to say, Nadia, this is a very well-written piece of text, and I gained so much information out of that that I never thought about the back end of the political meetings, and you brought that to my attention. Since you want to know more about your claims are stronger and they are very well supported by the evidence, so I will talk about that. In paragraph 1 and 2, I see you are making the claims, and paragraph 2 is actually going further to support the claim you are making in paragraph 1, where you are saying that I think your argument is that it looks easy to be in a political system, but it is not a piece of cake. It's not for faint of heart. And if you are deciding for millions of people, it's not a single person's job. It's a group and teamwork, and everybody works together. And whatever you see in the media is just a facade. So I think that's your claim, and with the evidence of this picture, that the image that you have, I think it is very well supported, and you go in very much detail in the paragraph 3 and 4 with the description, and with the paragraph 5, 6, and 7, you have done a very deeper analysis. I mean, I was thinking, I cannot think of any other thing that you have left out. I mean, you went so deeply in there.
Thank you.
And then last paragraph, so you have the quotes in there, and which is a very nice touch as a conclusion paragraph, and I like the it's like very tightly concluded in there. And one thing, when I was reviewing this, I clicked on the link that you have provided under the reference.
Yes.
So that link does not go to that picture, but it goes to the whole article, which is about this picture. It goes about everything. It gives you a very good background. And there's another picture which has some of the team members I see. So I just...
Yeah, there are two pictures actually imposed one over the other. If you click on the picture, then the picture will move and this picture will come out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a bit complicated. I don't know why it's made like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was my comment.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, I also I was reading the whole text, and it's pretty clear what your argument is about, and what you believe how the political scene actually is behind the scenes. And I also agree with you that indeed the picture is I like how you describe the picture, because indeed you don't really see the usual niceties, is that a word? that you have in the behind in front of the camera for the politicians. They're shaking hands and being friendly with each other, but indeed you do see a very strong, like you said there, like Europe against the US, in the sense of simply discussing what they want to have, or what they want to achieve with this meeting. So I really like how you describe that. It's very clear. And yeah, indeed, I mean, maybe you can put perhaps more quotes from other sources about your, to support your argument. But for the rest, is very clear what you mean to say, and indeed that's what you, after I read the whole article and I went back to the picture, that's exactly what I felt. So it's pretty powerful, I think, how you described it. So it's pretty good. I like it.
Thank you.
Nadia, I'm going to echo what your colleagues have already said too. I think that what I took away from your project is that the main argument is that the media images tend to represent politics often in a romanticized image, with smiling statesmen and handshakes and nice surroundings in formal environments, and that this offers a counterpoint to that, and that what we see here are people really working hard, and there's some strain and tension in the room. And then you make the point that the members of the group are also not necessarily representative, perhaps, of larger kinds of demographics, right, that we might see, right? More women, people of different age ranges. And I like that you have the title of your project achieves circularity with the final sentence of your project, with uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. And I also like that you offer a really thorough, deep reading of the picture. I did wonder if maybe you could add one more sentence or two about someone's facial expression, perhaps spotlight in on one person to emphasize you say their poses are strained and the looks thoughtful and concerned. Maybe spotlight in on one person in particular, you know, the person who's holding his face like this, or I don't know, several of them look pretty concerned, I think. And then I wondered also, in the paragraph where you write, last but not least, the picture reveals that politics is still a men's world. A couple things about that. I think that's a really important point and a great point. When you use the lead-in phrase, last but not least, even though it's saying the opposite, it almost does it almost affirms that it's sort of like a final point that could be the least, you know, that you chose to put it finally. So I'm wondering if you can find a different way into that paragraph that can kind of continue to have it as just as much emphasis as the rest of the points. That phrase also ends up making it seem like an argument is appearing in list form, and ideally, most often we want, maybe not most often, our arguments should not necessarily be lists of points so much as you know, an overall articulation of an argument in some way. And then I wondered if you wanted to bring in race and ethnicity to this too, because if it's a man's world with only one female representative, I also just see one visible person of color in Obama among the group too, and that might be something that you could mention.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you.
Okay. And then my final, I think in one of the videos, I think we discussed bringing in context. And since this is the Copenhagen Climate Summit, I'm wondering if you want to include in your project a little bit about the context of a climate summit and why that particular event might inflect your argument in a particular way. For instance, maybe climate of all kinds of things is especially contentious or challenging, right? Like, there are no easy answers, people disagree, there are many, many different ripple impacts of choices that we make, you know, with trying to improve or leave alone the climate. And then the other point, I guess, is who is present at the Copenhagen Climate Summit and who is not, and why does that matter, and who's leading the efforts in our world for that, and who is getting left behind, right? And how does that, right, all those questions of who's making the decisions and imposing them on other places. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I just had one final comment, and I hope I'm conveying through my level of engagement here how interesting this was, and I want to highlight that for us. Your project was really exciting for me. It made me think about power, and it made me think about the climate, and it made me think about representation and politics and work and expertise, right? So I'm really engaged with your project. But the Voltaire quote, the power, with great power comes great responsibility. I I was about to ask if you wanted to say it in French because I just chose to say it in English instead because my French is not so good. But do you want to say it in French?
I wouldn't say it very well too. I think it kind of sounded more authentic. This is why I put it in French, because like this was the original language in which it was stated, and then I put it as a footnote, the translation.
Yeah, I love that you did that. I think that's great. What do you guys think? Do you like that she put that in French or not?
Yeah, it sounded very much. Yeah, and it gave a little lightness to the reading, because I just started thinking about Spider-Man. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's great. Like, yeah, with great power. I never saw it that way, so it was like, oh yeah, indeed, that's a great way of using that quote. Yeah.
Yeah. I missed it first time when I read the whole thing. The second time when I read it and I was looking at the references, I said, oh, okay, the meaning is right there. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I like that because it honors the original language, and I think that's good. And my understanding of translations is no translation is perfect, even though this one probably comes pretty close. So I think that was good that you did that. All right. So do you have any remaining questions for us, or let me ask, do you guys have anything else that you wanted to add before we turn to another person's draft?
I want to thank you all for the comments. I really appreciate it.
I have one question, Professor. Does one of this goal was to show the expertise? So this was, I mean, does it combine the expertise of the COILs that we did the project one? Mm-hmm. Does it have to be show it directly or indirectly? I know it shows the expertise of the politicians, right? But do we have to connect in somehow with the project one?
I'm glad you mentioned that, Amina. So and I'd like your opinions on whether Nadia's, to the extent to which Nadia's project does this or not. In terms of the actual assignment stipulations, there is no requirement that you need to connect it to COIL. This course, as you might know, ran last year also, and in last year's iteration, I did have a specific project element that asked people to not only analyze the picture and do all that you're doing, but also to connect it to COIL. And in some cases, it just seemed a little too forced in the argument, right? That people said that it was too much of a struggle to try to connect it to COIL in that way. And so for this year's iteration of the course, we decided not to require that connection. However, the projects are connected in terms of the writerly skills that you're learning, in terms of analyzing, summarizing, questioning text, right? First it was written, second it was visual. And if you can make connections from COIL, that would be interesting and great if you want to, because it deepens your thinking about expertise. So what do you, should she include, I don't know if Nadia actually mentions the word expertise in your project, do you?
Yeah, there is one point where I mention it. Where is it? I think that I like the picture because, oh no, okay, yeah, I did. I don't actually. I say distills the essence of what it means to be a politician.
So let me ask the group, rather than me telling you as teacher, let me ask the group, what are the advantages and disadvantages to leaving it alone or revising it a little to include expertise? What do you think?
Well, I think the advantage, I guess, is that you have a more clear way on how to describe the image and how to connect it with the expertise that you want to have. But on the other hand, I think, like you said, it will be kind of forced with some things. Like, for example, what I wrote, I think it will be kind of difficult to make a connection with the sweet spot with COILs. It will be like, how do maybe on the practice part, it will be a bit forced indeed. But yeah, it has both advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah, I think I would also have problems connecting it to COIL, and especially because it's really kind of, it seems worlds apart. Like, Coyle talks in about expertise in kind of in a more, I don't know, I wouldn't say informal, but yeah, in a different way, I think. Which it will be really, for me, it will be really difficult to connect Coyle with politics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think what Coyle was exploring was how can you develop expertise, and what your project, one of the main questions I see your project exploring is what are the costs of expertise, or who is allowed to be considered an expert, right, and who is not in terms of climate and and politics, which are different kinds of questions related to expertise, but different than Coyle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, from that point of view. Okay, yeah, I see.
Mm-hmm. So I'm fine with you not including Coyle or including direct reference to expertise.
I found one place where I say expertise that politics requires years of experience and expertise. So this is the only place where I mention it. But I could change it, yeah, and kind of steer it more to more in the correct direction.
No, I don't know. I don't know that you need to. I mean, I think as long as this is going to be an issue for many of us in the course, right? As we read each other's projects, is the image analysis about expertise, or is it not, right? And to what degree do we want to coach people to move it more towards expertise? And I think this is a really useful example of an instance where expertise operates as an undercurrent, an understood undercurrent in the project, and you name it once, and that to me is enough and good. And so I think it's fine. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. That undercurrent, like you said, yeah, indirectly it shows that it talks about the expertise. So you don't explicitly have to say about it if you don't want to. I mean, it's very obvious. So yeah, I mean, it's up to you, your decision. Both ways fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That was a really good question that we raised. Okay, so we're going to turn to Yehida's paper next. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, reviewers, for giving your feedback. And we're going to follow the same procedure here. So, Yehida, what would you especially like feedback on for your project?
Yeah, I would just like to know indeed if I made my argument clear. If it was understood, and if I should add any more or quotes or references or anything, that would be great to hear. And also if indeed if the also in the structure, if the article makes sense to you all, like when you read it, if it makes sense or if it's understandable, that would be great.
Okay, and can you point us to which paragraph you'd like to read? If it's a short one, you can read 2 paragraphs. Go ahead.
Do I have short ones? Okay. Well, in the first page, the paragraph to start with, here we see Frank.
Okay.
And we'll go until the second page where it says rain boots. I hope that's okay.
Yes.
Like 2 short paragraphs. Do I start reading?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so here we see Frank wearing a giant head. From, in parentheses, from research into this character, I find the head is made out of fiberglass. Sitting in the middle of the woods. From the reflection of the light, it looks like it's late afternoon, early evening, just before the light dies out until the next day. Frank is wearing jeans, a blue shirt, and blue blazer. The colors are broken by the contrast with the yellow rain boots. He is holding some sort of flat wooden instrument and seems as if he's thinking deeply. The entire image seems to want to make you believe this exact idea. The comfort with which Frank wears the head, as if he was born this way and the whole world saw this as a normal person with a very large fiberglass head, appeals to me. It gives me an idea of what exactly the movement of magical realism tries to present to the reader or viewer with one of its stories. Frank sits there, pensive, thinking about an idea perhaps. He is looking away, completely ignoring the head. She, the head, doesn't get in the way of his human behavior, and it is for him as normal as his yellow rain boots.
Okay, thank you. So let's have our minute of reflective time, and I will start us off and let you know when the minute is up. Okay. So who would like to start us off on feedback?
I can start. Last time Amina was first. So first I want to say that I really like your piece of writing. It's interesting, and I think it's creative. Like the inferences you took out of the picture are interesting, and I like your title, Magical Realism, an adventure while writing fiction. It's really clear, and I think it's clearly written. The paragraphs follow well. What I would suggest is maybe if you could, in the first paragraph, maybe add some more sentences describing what actually magical realism is.
Okay.
I don't know if many readers will be acquainted with that topic.
Yeah.
So
right.
basically, it's like in literature, but I think it's also a movement in film. So maybe you can connect this to the fact that you are discussing a picture from a film. I don't know if the film itself is magical realism. I guess maybe from the picture it is. So maybe you can make some kind of that connection as an introduction to your topic.
Yeah.
Also, I think something about observing the picture, what came to my mind is that it looks like in the woods, it's kind of dark and magical. Itself, the scene kind of has this magic in it.
Yeah.
You know, like all fairy tales, you have those scenes where there are elves and all these magical beings in the woods. So I think it just gives me the idea that it really supports the magical realism also from that point of view. And yeah, when you describe his clothes, maybe you can say also that they're really kind of very simple and ordinary, which is really a good way to show us the extraordinary quality of his head. Because if he were really, I was thinking if he were really dressed in a very striking way, maybe this will take off from that image.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, about the expertise, it's a bit like, I think your argument is that to be an expert in magical realism means to see the magical and extraordinary, the difference which is not seen in the daily life, and combine and fuse them together in a way. So I am not sure yeah, how that would maybe like make it more clear. Like kind of, I don't know, relate to that idea every paragraph in a way.
Okay.
I don't know how to explain it. And I had something else, but yeah, actually, you infer, especially when you describe his hands, like how human they are to his compared with his head. So you infer the idea of that magical realism is like finding in a normal setting the abnormal, like the magical.
Yeah.
But maybe if you state it like more clearly, kind of you can infer it like you like how it's combined, but maybe at the beginning somewhere where you say that the picture is of real woods, the picture is of a real person with yellow boots, and you know everything is real, but the hat is just a magic invention.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be.
Okay.
That would be my comment.
No, great, really. Okay, yeah, indeed, you're right. Yeah, I understand. Cool. Thanks.
Sure.
Okay, so it's my turn now?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so like Nadia said, you know, I liked your writing very much. Its paragraphs are like, it's a very good flow, smooth from one paragraph to another. And I agree with Nadia's comment to add more in the first paragraph. I was thinking, but I did not think about that, adding more about magical realism, you know, that people want to know. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to add that about it. Because this is a new topic for me. I've never heard about it or something. In the suggestion part, you know, I just find it very difficult to understand the word fantastic, because I looked up the meaning of fantastic, and it is like, it's an adjective. First of all, it's an adjective, and it says appealing. It means appealing or imaginary in that sense. And I see that I'm English is not my first language, you know, so I cannot be the very authentic person to say that, but I don't know if it is a good idea to use one word as sometimes as adjective, sometimes as noun, and sometimes as verb. I don't know if that is allowed, or it confuses reader something, but I just noticed it, like in the first sentence it says it is used as a noun.
In the first instance up there, okay.
Fantastic insight, the ordinary.
You know, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Professor Kommer can correct me after I have done here. And then, like in the.
Well, I'll jump in now. I don't have a correction. I'll just make a comment that what we should do as writers when we hear feedback like that is it's not so much a matter of whether it's allowed or not allowed, but that what I heard you saying is that it confused you and it stopped you, and you actually spent time, instead of reading the project, you actually spent time going online to look at a dictionary, which is great, and you're learning, you know, that's good. I love dictionaries. Everyone should look at dictionaries. However, you know, maybe we want to think about using language that can, of course, illustrate the beauties of colloquial speech at the same time as not causing undue confusion in readers who might be multilingual and coming from different, or even people who were born, you know, and home language was English, but, you know, a different kind of English, a different world English than wherever you're speaking English from. So I think that's a good point. So I don't have an answer, but it's something to listen to anyways.
Okay.
Go ahead, Amina. You had more to say. Oh no, did we lose you?
Uh-oh. Oh no.
Oh, I shouldn't have talked. She was on a roll. Elise, if you're there, maybe you can help Amina come back. And in the meantime, I will go ahead and offer feedback while we're waiting. Hopefully Amina can either come back or write notes in for the rest.
Yes, I'll try and find her.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I agree with the comments that have already been shared, and in addition to the adding more about magical realism in the introduction, I felt like I needed a little more information about the movie Frank, just a little bit, a sentence or two, because I just wasn't familiar with it. I'm also not familiar with Frank Sidebottom. Maybe I should be, but if that's relevant in some way, you know, give people like me a little bit more to hold on to, I guess, because I think it'll help us understand it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming that you call the head a she. Is that because in the movie it's referred to as a she?
It just came out like that. I think English is also not my first language, and in Spanish it will be a female word.
Oh, what is the word in Spanish? Say it.
Cabeza.
Okay, so
And then
cabeza.
it's la cabeza, so then you have it. Yeah, so it just came out like that.
Okay, so I didn't know if maybe there was also in the movie, you know, a commentary on gender in some way, you know, like you know, female and male at the same time, but it doesn't seem like that's going on here. So that to me is something that you might want to refer to it in a gender neutral way, or keep saying the head instead of the, you know, adding a pronoun to it. And I wanted to ask the phrase at the bottom of the first page, Frank sits there pensive, thinking about an idea, perhaps. Since I'm not familiar with the movie, does the face ever have expressions, or is it always looking like that?
Always like this. Yeah.
Always like that? Okay,
Yeah.
so to me, he looks, and I'd be interested to hear what our, I think Amina's maybe coming back, I'm not sure.
Sorry, yeah, my connection got lost power because of the power problem.
Oh, I'm glad you're back. Good.
Sorry about that.
Okay, we can almost see you. I can't see you quite yet.
Yeah, I don't know if camera is working.
Okay.
But I can see you and I can hear you.
Great. Okay, well, I'll just pause there. I can come back to my thought. I was going to make a comment about the expression, but Amina, since you were already going before you got, before your electric connection got warped, why don't you continue with your feedback?
Okay. Yeah, I have just one more comment about paragraph 4. I think, you know, it's very good, but I think this paragraph is, and since you read it, I think it's like most important paragraph for you, Ajahira. Little bit, you know, found a loose. I mean, it can become more tighter. So, for example, like the last sentence, it says, she, the head. I mean, you can just say the head does not get it in the way.
Yeah.
And also this sentence and the first sentence of this paragraph, I think you can combine in some way. I don't know. I mean, it's the same repetition of the same idea, right? Like
Okay.
how normal is the person, even with the large fiberglass head. Other than that, I think you have a very good ending also. I like it.
Thanks.
Okay. So with what I wanted to ask our participants here about is, with the description of the image, the Frank sits there pensive, thinking about an idea, perhaps. When I look at that image, you know, again, I don't know anything about the movie or about the British entertainer, but he looks kind of startled to me. Like his eyes are really big, and it looks like he's alarmed in some way. I don't know what others of you interpreted, because I didn't see the pensive thinking about an idea, perhaps. What did you? Am I off base, Amina and
I think.
or Nadia?
Yeah, I think, you know. Yeah, you're right. You know, I also marked somewhere. I wrote down he has a huge, big, expressive eyes. Like, you know, instead of his mind, his eyes are thinking. You know, like he's seeing and thinking with his eyes. The eyes are so big, expressive. And also, when I enlarged this picture, I noticed some kind of hole here and there in the picture. It looks like a breathing hole for this fiberglass. He has to breathe somewhere. So I was thinking, if you want to describe it more about the picture, maybe you can add that, you know.
Yeah.
And like you said about he has something in the hand, right? So maybe it's right there. Yeah, Yeah, he looks like more like a surprise. Yeah, Professor Kumar is right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he does. Like when you look at him, he can look like a bit startled. But I'm thinking that we can combine both approaches and maybe think like, wow, he just got a brilliant idea, and he just kind of really opened his eyes because of that. It's just something really startled him, something that he was thinking, or something he discovered, or maybe I don't know what he's playing or something. Yeah, something like kind of really startled him, and he looks on the side. Like I don't know if he looks at something he just sees, or just sometimes when we just discover something, we just look pensatively also on the side. So that can be also an interpretation.
And so, as with in Nadia's paper, I talked about maybe thinking about the context of the image with the Copenhagen Climate Summit. I don't know if you want to describe where, not just in general what the movie's about, but where this scene occurs, right? What's happening immediately after or before, because that might be relevant. And I also want to emphasize, we don't always need to continue to keep visual images within their original context, and sometimes it's really useful not to, for the argument you're making, not to necessarily have that context there. But in this case, and in perhaps the Copenhagen climate case, because of your arguments, it does seem like a kind of natural fit. But I wouldn't want to say that as a global suggestion for everyone's paper. But that might be good here. And then I just wanted to also comment, Yehida, that I thought it was a very charming image, right? And so you wrote in one paragraph that it brings out a very appealing human side, to a very strange character. And I also have just a natural affinity towards magical realism. I enjoy it myself, so that's part of it. But I don't know if I just wanted to comment that I really liked it was appealing, and it's charming, and it's sweet in its way.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to me, because often things that are abnormal or strange are sometimes scary, right, and off-putting, and we don't know how to deal with it. So part of the magical realism is that it charms you in its weirdness in a way, right? Not just that it fuses.
Yeah.
So we're gonna turn in a second to Amina's paper. Yehida, do you have any other questions for us, or Amina or Nadia? Do you have any final comments?
I know. I just thanks for the feedback. Really, it's really helpful. I didn't see it like that. About his head, I think I said that he looks pensive because he's staring into the distance in the picture, because his face never changes. The head just always stays like that. So no matter how in the movie, actually, he has to describe the emotions he's going through, because he doesn't take off the head. So he's like, yeah, now I'm smiling with happiness, or I'm shocked, and So yeah, I just assume, I guess, from the image that he was just thinking about something sitting on the ground there. But yeah, it's thanks a lot. They get a lot of feedback from it, so that's great, and I'll work on it quite a lot here. That's great, really. Thanks.
Well, that's even more interesting, that something that's kind of devoid of emotion in the face, right, can yield, affection from viewers too. So that's interesting. Good. Thank you so much. Okay, and so now for our third project too. And I realized, I don't know if viewers are seeing these images. Maybe we want to. I don't know if you guys are posting. If Elise is posting your drafts alongside this Hangout workshop, but if she is, great. If not, if you don't want your drafts shared, at least maybe posting the images would be helpful. But there's the image from that, and then I'll show the other one.
Denise?
Yes.
Students who are watching should go to the forum where these guys volunteered. Their work and their photo and the pictures are posted there.
Excellent. Okay, and people who are not can. There's the image of the Copenhagen Summit from before. And finally, for Amina's project, we have There, Bill Gates, that's your image, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so now what would you especially like feedback on for your project?
Similarly, like others, like my arguments are making sense and they are tightly built and it is supported by the evidence in this essay on the similar track. That's what the feedback I like.
Okay, and what paragraph would you like to read aloud?
I actually like to read the second last paragraph. Bill,
Okay.
it starts with Bill. Should I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Bill not only achieved his dreams, but he also contributed immensely in shaping the world as we see today, full of technological revolution. Maybe he was thinking about making a difference in the world in this image, as many young people of his age meant to do. But when he became one of the richest men in the world, he did not lose sight of his humanity. He is lovingly referred to as a billionaire philanthropist. This begs few questions. What motivated Bill to succeed and keep going on? Who played a major role in building his expertise, nature or nurture? Or was Harvard the hotbed of talent for Bill Gates, or was it Bill's basement? We may not know the answers to these questions, but we can see the image of Gates captured here, and we can make our own inferences from it.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll start our timer, our 1 minute.
Initially, when I asked him, he said it took better to propose this and once I said, but I think he had to say that. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So
I think it's Yehida's time to go first. Is that right? Are you ready, or do you want to? Okay.
No, I'm ready. Yeah, I really liked your article as well. I mean, it was really cool to read about so much about Bill Gates and sort of be a reminder of what he meant for well, you know, for the technological era. So that's really cool. What it's also pretty well written and very clear, and also you use a lot of you know. You use a lot of references and you make a connection also with the sweet spot. Pretty good on this with this particular paper. You make quite a very spot on comparison with what Coyle says on the sweet spot. But what I don't understand is I'm not sure if what Coyle says you're using it as a support for your argument or against your argument. I find I don't understand exactly what you mean, and well, for example, what Bill Gates he was working harder, smarter instead of harder, but I would think that he was doing both. Like that he left he stopped, he didn't have that much of a social life, so he was smart, and it was a lot of nature had to do with it, but also how he worked so hard on it and how he focused so much on it. So I would think it's more work harder and smarter than one way or the other. So yeah, so that part is just that's the part that I didn't understand. I wasn't clear on whether you were Coyos was sort of your support to support your argument or not.
Sure. So the Coyle has made many claims in his sweet spot. So a part of it works and supports the claim that I'm making for the Bill Gates, and another part is not supporting. I mean, not supporting it means it's limited. I mean, Bill Gates is representing more than what Coyle is saying. So I'm saying that what Coyle is saying, it supports some part of it, but it's not the whole thing. That Bill Gates is representing more than that. That expertise involved more than just uh, doing something repeatedly in a targeted way or working at the edge of your ability. It needs brains. It needs, the environment, like a hardware of it, the right environment.
So I'm wondering, I mean, if that means that maybe you want to start off with, I mean, you made a choice. The other two projects that we read had a beginning, paragraph or sentence that, introduced the topic, right? There are all kinds of areas. What does it mean to be an expert in teaching and to be an expert in literary style of magical realism? You made a choice to start off just describing the image directly, which I think is a good choice. But I'm wondering if that contributed to uncertainty about how Coyle was functioning within the argument. So one option could be that you have a beginning paragraph that talks about theories of expertise, right? That there are, such as Coyle's, and that some images show the, reinforce those, and some images show the limitations. But another option, if you wanted to keep this structure, because I do want to encourage all of us in the class to think about a myriad of different structures for our projects, is you could do the work that that Yeheda was asking for. You could accomplish it with, let's see, 1, 2, 3. In the third paragraph, instead of beginning that third paragraph with, since we know who Bill Gates is, there is no doubt he is an expert in his field, maybe begin that paragraph instead with a few sentences laying out how Coyle is going to operate for you in your argument, or what you just said, right, that there are limitations and that it reinforces.
Okay.
Okay. Yeheda, did you have more to say?
No, that was it. That was the part that it was hard for me. So
okay.
The rest was pretty clear and interesting as well.
Good. Amina. I'm sorry, Nadia.
Yeah, I think you have a very catchy title, which is very nice, and I like that you did kind of really background research on him, working in his basement, and now like even following him to right now being a philanthropist. I think it's very interesting. So if I can a bit follow on the Coyle's argument, in your last paragraph you state that Coyle, in essence, he's favoring the idea of work smarter, not harder. I don't know, like my interpretation of working at the edge of your kind of at the edge of what you can do, like basically those people, he's saying that, I mean, for me it sounds like they have to work harder, the hardest they could, because a simple practice, kicking the ball around is not going to help Bruno. He's trying to do something which is actually extremely hard for him because he cannot do it. So he really tries to make it. So I think working on the edge of your ability would be rather, like, for me, really hard and a smart way to do, right? Because you want to accomplish further. So I don't know if, I mean, my interpretation of Coyle would be clashing with that. I think he would say both, but of course you can still make the argument that what Coyle says is not the complete truth, right? That, I mean, you should have an ability as well. So maybe you can kind of, I don't know, maybe make it wider, like explain what you like. Explain that point. Sure. And another thing, the paragraph which says, since we know Bill Gates, that we were talking about this, the second one, it says, this resonates with gaining experience part of code. Yeah, maybe as Professor Comer said, like if you change it, maybe right now I don't know how it resonates with that argument. It's difficult for me to follow that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I like very much the point in the end you make, maybe last sentence, that like Bill Gates shows that perseverance in the face of adversity is a main characteristic of being an expert in that field. So I think this is a very good point, and maybe if you can make it earlier, it will be better. And related to his life, like, I mean, he was working in a basement. He believed in himself, and I think this picture you have, like, his face is happy, but you can see, like, for me, like, looking at that picture is like, I know who I am, you know, there is this face, like, I know who I am and what I can accomplish. So maybe if you can integrate this as a part of his expertise, I think, and maybe even related to the bigger point of the current entrepreneurs in the tech field. I mean, they're all young. I mean, most of them. Of course, there is the later generation, but many of them are young. They kind of dress up really casually. They are, you know, they are not the business culture we know. They just made their way because they know who they are and what they want, and they're visionaries. Maybe you can also include that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is, yeah, all I could say.
Thank you. Very good. Yeah, both of you had a very nice feedback. Yeah, I think the last paragraph, I have confused myself also. So I have to work on my last paragraph, you know, because it's like a little bit confusing, not clear.
And just to add to that, I mean, I really like the feedback, and I do want to commend you on the great detail and description you've given of the image itself. I think that's really good, and I really like the comment about the facial expression that Nadia, you just made, because it also works with what you said earlier, Nadia, about Coyle talks about the edges of ability, and the expression on Bill Gates's face does, as you say, it's sort of like, yeah, I got this. I'm like, there's this confidence, right? That it doesn't suggest a slippery hill or really challenging kind of, and maybe that was there in other ways. Certainly, anybody who does a sleepless night staying with computers must encounter some challenges, you know, so we know it was there, but the image doesn't necessarily show it. So that's good. With the closing, I mean, with what you were saying, maybe you're, if you choose to close the project talking about Coyle, then it makes your whole project just sort of about Coyle's version of expertise. And I feel like maybe instead what you might want to communicate with readers through the conclusion is the larger point that you're making about, you know, that expertise involves kind of a deep devotion and passion and love for it, and you know, I think maybe something that you're also making a point about is the philanthropy, the philanthropic, and so I was going to ask you to kind of interweave that a little more thoroughly into the project, and I'm not sure what your point is about that, why it's relevant for his expertise, but I feel like there is a role there, and if that's so, then also include that in the conclusion too, because those are things that your readers can take with you, right? That they can think about more than just whether Coyle was right or wrong, or, you know, that's only takes us so far, I guess. Okay, so we are moving. We've been working hard. It's been an hour, so I do want to say, Amina, do you have other questions for us, or are there other ideas that anybody wants to say?
No,
or not?
Thank you. I want to say to all of you for feedback.
Okay. All right. Well, I very much appreciated this. Can you stay for 3 minutes more to do? Okay. So if you can, and I know it's a lot to ask because you've already worked hard giving feedback, but if you could take about maybe 90 seconds on your own, just privately. I'm not going to ask you to read anything aloud, and just write out a few bullet points, ideas about what you took away from this workshop, and then I'll turn to each of you and you'll share maybe one thing just verbally if you could. So just take 90 seconds to reflect on it for a minute, or for 90 seconds. Okay, so if we each can share one thing that we took away, and I'll share also.
Yeah, I'll just say, like, I think from the workshop it was great help, because I had a lot of how do you say it? Just to show how other people interpret what I wrote, and then how to make more clear what I'm trying to say. Sometimes I do get lost in thinking that everybody has my same ideas about, for example, writing or magical realism or whatever. So I did get a lot, it was very clear, like, okay, you have to make it more clear and more simple, but in a good way, like just to clarify it, just so people don't get lost in what you're trying to say. So that was great.
Yeah, my conclusion is kind of similar. I really like that I received others' feedback. I think that's really important because it's hard, like this is my brainchild and it's hard to critique it and see what are the faults. So I think other people's perspective, it's really useful.
Hi. So what, can I go ahead?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I learned that from my feedback, I learned that I have to work on some things, and from others' feedback, I appreciate the other people's feedback and like other perspective. But listening to other people, giving feedback to other people, I learned like how to respond. And I think that's very important. That how you respond to other people, to giving feedback. And receiving feedback also is a skill that we need to acquire it, and I think that's the biggest advantage of doing this kind of hangouts.
Yes, those are all great, and I thought that we each continued to see things in the images really reinforced how collaborative writing can be and should be, right? That we can each spend a long time with these images, but it's also important to share them with other people to get their ideas too. So that was nice. I think you guys did a great job of building your skill in receiving feedback and also providing feedback, and I really enjoyed reading each of your projects, and I so much appreciate the time you're taking to work on your writing. It's hard, and most of the time it's fun, but sometimes it's at the edges of our ability to work on our writing. So thank you for being courageous and doing that. Okay, so I think we're going to adjourn now, and I'm sure that your colleagues will be excited to read revisions of your project too when you submit them through the next stage. Okay, so thank you each.
Thank you very much for the workshop, really helpful.
Thank you, bye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.